Now, why did I say that we do decontaminate color next when it was right there? I've already clicked the OK button and I've approved it and it created this mask. Creating the mask was a destructive edit, so we're done, right? Well, not quite. So you'll notice a few things. First off, if I click on the mask, I've mentioned a few times the properties menu will have some additional things such as color range, invert, select, and mask. Well, that means we can actually go back into it. And if I press escape, there's another way that we can do that, which is to just go, which is to just go into select and then select and mask. And as long as we have the correct, the correct layer selected, and it shouldn't matter which of these thumbnails we're on, as long as the layer selected, select and mask will bring up this workspace again. The key is, and I mentioned that I was going to say this, the output. If we output back to the layer mask, then it will just update the layer mask with all the edits we did, and we'll destructively do that. If we create a new layer, we tell it OK, then we'll create a new layer that just has the layer mask applied to it. Pretty cool, right? So if we were to go in, and let me pop open selected mask again. If we were to go in and we were to say new layer with layer mask, we'll create a new layer with that layer mask, but it won't apply it down. And by apply down, I mean if I were to right click on here and apply layer mask, boom, it actually is only one layer now. Transparency is locked in. There's no getting around that. So that's what those guys are doing. Let me turn these back on. Pop over to select and mask. The last two options are new document, which would create a new document, apply the layer mask permanently. New document with layer mask, which would create a new document, and then apply the layer mask, or create the layer mask with that layer, but not apply it permanently. So that's what those are doing. So now that we have this back open, we can actually go in for another round of this, and we can zoom in, and we can see where things need to be refined. And so we can work away at some more painting. So this time, crank the opacity up. So you notice we've got the on black. The on white is great if you have darker images. You want to use the white so you can see the fringing, which is just the color of the original image still bleeding through. The on black, if you have lighter images, you can see the fringing there. That way, again, the color is showing through. So let's go ahead and use a second pass of the refine mask just real quick to the refine edge, just real quick to show what's going on. This time we'll start with the smart radius on, and we'll crank up the edge detection quite a bit. We'll show edge. Notice we don't have sorry about that. We'll pop this over to, that is correct. There we go. We'll pop this over to black and white for just a second. Notice that it's still what we had before. It's still going on as we'd expect. So if I were to go in here and start refining this, you can see that while I'm in black and white mode, you can see it's starting to look a little more like hair right away. It's immediately cutting in. So you can take a couple of different passes, and every time you pass through it, it will do its best to figure out what you want. And so sometimes it's good to apply what you have and then come back and do it one more time, and it will start fresh in a way. Let me go ahead and zoom in. If I were to take the brush tool with the subtraction, it will paint back in a hard line. And if I refine the edge, it will let me make it a soft line. So what you might want to do is two passes, essentially. Go in the first time with just the brush tool and make a rough brush. And then the second time, go in, refine the edge. Get the edge as close as you feel you can the first pass, and OK that, applying it to the layer. Come back in and do another pass altogether. And that will allow you to really do these adjustments in a nice, finely tuned way. So I know you don't want to watch me just keep painting away at these masks for another 25, 30 minutes, especially when I can do that off camera. But just to give you a quick idea, let me just touch on the hair with the refined edge, and we can see that the lion's mane just immediately starts painting in quite nicely. And so it can take it quite a ways, but let's say we get pretty far, we'll notice still that we have these weird colors, these weird little things going on. Well, let's say you've done a few passes with the refine edge. You've told it okay every time and all that good stuff. And you're still getting these bits where it's like cutting out in some places where it shouldn't be. And no matter what you do, it seems to have the same jaggediness. It's just having that strange issue. Now what you can do is actually change the underlying image to lighten and darken the pixels as needed around the fringed area by using the Decontaminate Colors option. This will give you a slider, and what it's doing is it's literally altering the underlying layer and darkening these pixels so that the mask will function better. And you can see that we wouldn't want to do this yet because there's still a lot of work to do in here, but just for demonstrative purposes, I'm going to go ahead and check this box now. Now here's the key. This is a destructive edit. This will actually edit your original image. So if you do this, don't just put it to the original selection. And in fact, in 2019, you can't put it to the original selection. I like this. They force you to make a new layer and layer mask or a new layer. Do make a new layer and layer mask. That's easier to go back and edit. Tell it okay. Boom. So what's the difference between the two? Here's the decontaminated colors. Here's the contaminated colors. Decontaminated, contaminated. Take a look at this whisker. Notice that on the contaminated ones, kind of fades in and out. And on the other one, it's right there. So the question is, what if you want it in some places and not in others? Well, guess what? You can apply both the masks on a new copy, merge them down, and then or mask them and then merge them down. So in other words, if you absolutely needed it in some places and not in others, duplicate everything. Apply these layer masks. I'm just going to do that through a right click, and I'm going to tell it apply a layer mask in each of these. Apply layer mask, make a new layer mask, and invert on there. And then in places where you want it to be in one or not the other, you would paint it in using black or white. And again, this is the decontaminated color one. Notice that in some areas it works beautifully, such as around on the whiskers. And in other areas, it's kind of a problem, like around in the mane. So we could take the best of both worlds and really, chew that in. And then we can merge that down. Voila, now we have it all affected. But now, again, we just did a fully destructive edit. We merged this thing down. I'm okay with that right now because I still have the original down here, the original with the good mask and the decontaminated one. At the point we did the color decontamination, we did a permanent edit. So really, we're just doing more permanent edits at that point. So it's really something you want to wait till the very last step because it's so much better to have an editable mask. And in fact, for this assignment, I would strongly, strongly encourage that you keep the mask editable. So next up is the refine selection. And before I do the refine selection, on the next video, I'm going to really think about whether I want to do it on this lion or the next image. So if the image suddenly changes out, you'll know why. I'll see you in just a second with the refine selection, which is what appears in the older versions of Photoshop rather than refine mask. You'll see that the controls are the same, but the process and what it produces is in fact different. So do watch out on that. See you in a second.